we're happy to have Black History Month today, or Black History Month lecture. What the month will be all month long, and we'll be highlighting the contributions of African Americans and Black people to the Lukens plant in particular. But I just want to take the time to see Harry. Thank you, Representative Harry Lewis, for coordinating and talking to getting some of our panelists here tonight. So thank you, and happy to have you joining in tonight. And I also thank Cleveland Cliffs. They were instrumental as well as putting the word out and helping us get some people here to the event tonight. But having said that, again, this, we're happy to have this conversation tonight. I think it's interesting. I want people to share their experiences, at the plant, and I think there'll be some good stories, and share with us, anything that you think is important. Again, the good, bad, and just tell like you see it or how you experience it. Very interested to know. And I think this is going to be, it's a good conversation. And again, it will be on our webpage so that people will be able to, view it at their leisure. And a lot of these events do get numbers after the day of event. So again, we'll see where it goes. And our website is well used. But I want to next thank, Stacy Jones for being here tonight, and Kameen Thompson for being here as well, and taking the time out of your night to share with us with your experiences. So I just kind of get get it out of the gate here a little bit is, maybe, ladies first, Stacy, maybe you could just tell us, your name's Stacy Jones, but a little bit about your work experience in the mill, what you do for the company, and when you started, how long you worked, and just a brief introduction.
Okay, my name is Stacy Jones, and I work at the 140 Rolling Mill at Cleveland Cliffs in Coatesville, PA. I started out in the mill in January 22nd, 1989. So I have 33 years of service. I started out as what they call a gauger and a stamper. I would gauge the plate for thickness, but I would also stamp it for identification purposes. I finally worked my way up to the number one position in the mill, which is the number one operator, AKA screwman, and I had them change that name to screw operator. So I am a historical icon. I became, I guess it was about 22 years ago, I became not only the first Black, but the first female to become a number one operator in the 140 mill.
That's where I've seen you, in the bullpen up there. Yeah.
That's where you've seen me.
Yeah, I've seen you for sure up there.
Uh-huh.
Great. What a job. What a job. Front row.
Yeah. Yep.
That's great. That's great. Well, very interested to hear more about that as we go on, and maybe even later. But Kameen, just a brief introduction as well.
Yes, my name is Kameen Thompson, and I started in the mill November 13th, 2005. I've been there for close to about 16 years now. I started out as a flex, which was a position where I floated around to each department. I learned various jobs. After that, I actually bid it off of a job, and I became a cut the length operator, and then I became a gas cutter after that. I was on the shop floor for about 7 years, and then I ran for union president. In 2015, I was nominated to be president at 33 years old. I was the youngest president at the time ever in the plant at 33. I am still the president today. I'm 40, I'll be 42 in a couple of weeks. In 2016, I became the USW safety coordinator. With that, I became on the global safety committee, where I was traveling around the world, going to different strengthen safety policies and procedures throughout other steel mills. Special projects with USW to travel around to be, I guess, a liaison for the USW for civil rights. And now I'm I am running the entire Conshohocken Safety Department. I'm in a unique position. We don't have manager left after we was downsizing, and I took over the department, and I've been running safety for the whole plant ever since 2016.
I'll follow up with you. I know, I saw a post where, they're hiring back. I guess they're looking for people down at Conshohocken. So hopefully that's a good sign of things to come.
That is a very good sign. In 2018, we idled our mill. We stopped all rolling production at our mill, and everything was coming from Coatesville. Us and Coatesville are basically one plant. We're like the little brother of Coatesville. So we receive slabs from Coatesville, and we also are receiving slabs currently from Burns Harbor, Indiana. Right now, when Cliffs has come in since last year, they have made plans to reopen our mill and do some capital investment this year. So our mill should be open probably no later than next summer. And we're looking to hire an additional 65 people. When I started in the mill, we had 375 people. We went down to 76 in 2018. So drastic layoffs, drastic dip in the economy took us down to 76 people. Now we're back up to 130 currently. So we're moving back up to where we used to be in 2018. Or I'm sorry, 2017.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting history, the Conshohocken plant, the old Allen wood and the thin gauge, a little thinner than what Stacy's rolling. When I say it's Stacy's rolling it. So that's great. Well, I'll start things out. I think one of the things that, I appreciate the introductions. And Harry, you want to mention anything as well?
Well, it's been so long ago since I've been down there in my days at Lucan's back in the early 60s. These young people are really setting the trend and doing things. I'm very proud of Stacy. I actually had an opportunity, I think, if she remembers, a few years back when she was operating, and I visited the mill then.
Yes.
But yeah, Mr. Thompson, very proud of you and your involvement. So it's definitely a new wave, and a lot of our youngsters are doing a fantastic job. It's very hard for me to relate as to what you guys are doing now and what I'm familiar with way back. I tell everybody I only worked at Lucan's for like 3 weeks. I couldn't stand it. So you guys are to be patted on the shoulder, believe me. And if anyone ever has a chance to visit Cliffs, the new mill, please take that opportunity so you can see what's going on. It's almost like being in the Army. If you've never been in there, you have no idea what the soldiers go through. And Stacy and Mr. Thompson, you guys are soldiers at that mill and leading the way. So I'm very proud of your accomplishments.
Thank
you.
Ms. Jones, I mean, you're a history maker, believe me.
Yes,
I mean, that's a big time. You can't minimize that in any way. So we're very, very, very proud of your accomplishments. So keep up the good work and make it better. Do good for Coatesville like you are.
Sir. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you have your fingerprint on a lot of important projects all across this nation. So certainly be proud of the work that you're turning out and the quality that you do. We're all proud. Let me say that.
Thank you.
But I'll start with you. I mean, maybe we'll just start with the hiring practice. I mean, can you talk about how you were hired or your first couple of weeks on the job, just the initial introduction and how that all came about. And Stacy, feel free to go first. Yeah.
Okay. As we were saying earlier, we have a lot of family members that work in the mill. And I kept telling my girlfriends, I want to get in there and I want to make some of that money that my uncles are making. Man, I want some of that money. So the three of us went down and filled out an application, and they hired me, but they didn't hire them. And they were pretty upset about that. But I came into the mill, and I'm a high heel kind of girl. First time I put on the steel toe boots, I swore I wasn't going to make it from the gate to the 140 mill. Oh, my feet and legs ached me so bad. I never thought I would make it, but I prayed about it, and I endured the pain, and I'm still there today, 33 years later.
Wow.
So your family's you're from Coatesville and all,
Yes.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Yeah, I mean, you grew up around it. It's great. You got the chance to go in and do it. It is a fascinating, terrifying, hard place to work. But
yes, it is.
But that's interesting. And yeah, it's curious that you went in with your it was cousins.
My grandfather, he worked in the mill.
He worked in the mill. Yeah, but you applied with a couple other people.
I'm sorry?
You applied with a couple other people. I just was curious.
Oh yeah, with my two best friends, yes.
Best friends. Yeah. And your grandfather, maybe just touch on that briefly. I mean, it'd be great to mention him and, just maybe, what was his name and what did he do? And
I'm not exactly sure what he did because he passed when I was a lot younger, but I do remember his name is John DeVoe Sr. I do remember he used to pick us up and take us to all the union Christmas parties. That's one thing I remember in particular. And we used to get bagged, like, I think we had an apple and candy cane and candy in the bag. And we just really looked forward to going to the Christmas parties that he would take us to every year. But not only my grandfather, I have my Uncle Steve DeVoe that worked there, Moses Grove, James Grove, Josh Grove. They're all brothers. Yes, they all worked there. And my father worked for, back then it was called Lipstick Still. Then it was called Hackett Still. Now it was called Lawyer Brothers, but he's a steel worker too. Retired. Yeah, I mean,
that's what we said. I mean, there are many it's a family company. It's many families, and we're proud of that. We're all proud of that story that, it's a common thread where, an uncle worked in the plant and they needed help. So they got the, come apply. And then,
yes,
many great families who work for the company. And those are some great names, the DeVoes and the Groves.
Yes.
I don't know them, but I know of them. And that's a great tradition. And it keeps it close, and you look out for each other.
Absolutely.
So that's really neat, those connections. But Kameen, maybe you could just talk about your, how you came about as well to work at the company, day one. And
sure. Before I started at the mill, I worked at a blind company called Elmore Window Fashion in Willow Grove, Pennsylvania. My best friend's brother, who worked at the mill, was trying to get his brother in, and me and his brother Rick, we got really close, and he was like, "Hey, my brother works at a mill, making pretty decent money." And at the time, I'm like, I'm not really a construction dude, so I'm like, all right, I hear you. So I'm trying to get a raise at my current job. Now it was only $13 an hour. I'm trying to get up to, at the time, I'm talking about maybe 2004. I'm trying to get up to about $15 an hour, and I had a hard time doing that. I went and I had an interview with the area manager, and what we did was we made custom window treatments for businesses and homes. And I worked. I moved my way up, and I moved my way up to the point where I thought I was ready to be sort of a manager, a supervisor. And at the time, I worked with mostly women, and it was mostly white women. And I went into the office, and I interviewed, and it was me and this other person. And it was this other woman who was a supervisor, and she kind of took me under my wing. She thought I'd be ready to take over her spot because she was going to a different position. Make a long story short, the woman passed me over, and she thought I wouldn't be respected as a manager leading a bunch of women. So I said, okay, no problem. So I called Rick. I said, all right, I'm ready to leave. And then I got to the steel mill. And man, when I got to the steel mill, I couldn't believe what I was. I've never been in a place where, if you move any type of way, you can get hurt, you can get killed. It just was a big place. It was extremely cold in the winter, extremely hot in the summer, and it was just a beast of a machine, a big machine that I would call it. The hours was, I never worked overnight, and I'm not a coffee drinker. So I'm like, man, I got to stay up, and I'm working from 6 in the morning. From 6 in the evening to 6 in the next morning. I don't know how I'm going to do this in the freezing cold. As time went on, I had a lot of good guys that took me under their wing. I was 25 years old when I started, a real pivotal point in my life. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do. And I'm like, I got my first paycheck, and I said, yeah, I think I'm going to stay for a good minute. I'm going to learn this job. And I stayed, and the paychecks kept coming, and I just kept learning and growing, and things just got a lot better.
I'll get into some of those. I'm sorry.
I'm done.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't mean to cut. Zooms can be tough. I don't mean to cut anybody off. So if I do, I apologize. But yeah, Harry, maybe you could as well, Representative Lewis, maybe you could as well just give us a little glimpse into how, I know it was 21 days, may have been short, but maybe give us a glimpse of that first one.
The first debate?
Well, you're talking about my experience back in the caveman days.
Yeah, just curious to know, again, like hiring, like how you came about working at the company. I know it was a short stint, but just curious to know, again, your initial introduction to the company.
Well, my initial introduction to the company, I wanted a job. I was just out of high school, and then I got hired the summer out of high school. I knew a lot of my fellow teammates, football players, and track teammates. That's where they went right after high school, and we were on the labor gang, and I was initiated into the 120 mil, which of course is no longer there. It's just a space now, as I understand it. But I wanted to go to college, and but I had to work. So I started in early July, and my little 21 days, I tell you, it was one of the toughest places. And as Mr. Thompson stated, you couldn't move without being aware of what's going overhead, what's behind you, what's over, and me as a young man, I think what got me out of there was working with the hoses, cleaning those tunnels out after the rolling mill, that slag and all of that kind of stuff. I said, well, this really isn't me.
Right.
And but as Mr. Thompson stated, a lot of the older gentlemen there took me under their wing, and I learned a lot, like how to sweep the floor, and there weren't any really technical positions for us young guys. But I just said to myself, I just got to get out of here. But it made me appreciate the older gentlemen that worked there prior to me, like my father, his neighbors, and this type of thing, because you really don't know, and you really don't respect the job that's being done down there and what their task was. So my first experience taught me to really respect those men that work down there, and especially my father. Mm-hmm. Along back at that time, the issues that were going on, the segregation, and it was just a different time. And what my father went through, and other parents of gentlemen my age who later went on there and worked there and had a career there. It was just different. And it made you really understand. That's why I applaud Stacy and Keenan for what they do. I mean, the danger factor, I mean, it's more modern now and more digital, but you got to walk through there. You got to get to your place where you work, and you ever have to be so aware. And you can't take anything for granted, even in this modern time. And then one last thing I'll say, you know, you have to respect the company, Lucan Steel Company. I'm the oldest of 11 siblings. And if we're not for Lucan Steel Company and Lucan Store, I just don't know where I would be or where my family members would be, because they actually helped raise us with our parents. I mean, we had the best food because the Lucan Store had the best cuts of meat and this type of thing. And they did this and they did that. So they supported their employees, and also the best hospitalization, the best medical plans. They took care of their workers, their members, and they took care of their families. And, you know, my dad didn't talk that much, but we reaped the benefits of his working and the toughness and this type of thing. And back that time, you know, and I'll say this publicly, those guys had no outlets. So a lot of them drank. A lot of them became alcoholics and this kind of thing. But they never missed a day of work. I can remember, I think sometime, and, you know, I'll say this, these youngsters, my dad would come in one day and, you know, you couldn't walk because it was that day off and that was their only outlet. But when he had that late shift, be it early in the morning, the afternoon, or night, he went to work. And that was the scary part. So they appreciated the family. They know they had to be there for the family. And Lucans did what they could during that time, in those rough times, you know, culturally, for the whites and the blacks. They took care of their employees. And the work that they did was so significant. And you just think of the tragedy we had at the Twin Towers. A part of that is Coatesville. A part of that was Lucan Steel. And the gentleman I'm talking about helped do that and build those structures for the warships and that kind of thing. That's how far I'm going back. So Lucans is so significant to this town, and that's why I'm staying involved to make sure that our people know where they are and how historic Lucans is and how important it still is to our community. So and Stacy's bringing in a new era of history. And I can't believe you've been there 33 years. But I'll tell you, that's what makes me so proud. But anyway.
And Harry's calling you young.
Yes, she is, compared to me. But I'm telling you, I am so proud to have been a part of that era where Lucans had such a major impact on this community.
Mr. Lewis, do you remember when Lucan Store would give you the credit when you didn't have money to buy food for your family? They would give you a credit and they would take it out of your paycheck.
Absolutely. I'm one of those people, young lady. I remember, this is a funny story. And what they would do when the men, when they worked, and you'd go down anytime and use the check number of the employee. And, you know, we'd go down, especially during holiday time and this kind of thing. And my dad had worked a couple of weeks, and then he'd get their paycheck. And he came home really upset and arguing. It's funny now, but it wasn't then. And I really didn't understand it. But he got a check for like $3.18 because all the money was taken out of the check that we spent at Lucan's store. You know, the old company store and that kind of thing. But we didn't know the difference. I mean, he knew. And that's another one of those things that people don't realize, you know, so your family can survive. And as large as our family was, 9 boys and 2 girls, you know, we hit that store quite a bit. And that was major. I can't express how important that was. We never went hungry. We always had the best that we needed, you know. Didn't have the transportation. Sometimes you had to walk with those bags from where we lived in Callan Township up to the Lucan store, but never thought about it. So those are the little things I think people don't realize and don't understand how significant reminders like this panel that we have tonight and the things our fathers and grandfathers and great grandfathers went through. So I really applaud the Houston Foundation, the society, for maintaining this and keeping this type of informational highway going.
Yes.
Yeah, we feel it's very important. I mean, and other people do too. I mean, obviously, we feel it's important, but we appreciate the kind words. You know, we know it wasn't always roses. I mean, I'd like to touch on that because I'm familiar with Goodman versus Lukens, you know, and the discriminatory cases and things, and you know, and the division of labor and such. So, you know, I appreciate the kind words. And it was a great company. It still is. I think Cleveland Cliffs is going to have a good positive influence on it as well. But you know, tradition continues, and I think that's one of the neat things about it is that you know, we're just happy to kind of be able to continue to do this. But you know, I kind of want to get into a little bit because you've all mentioned, you know, the teamwork involved, and so I want to ask a lighthearted question about, you know, like hazing or pranks or something funny that they would get you to do. But then I also want you to touch on, you know, something that, you know, you may have an uncomfortable moment, or, you know, if you want to. I mean, you know, I kind of, I'll also think it's interesting, you know, to hear, you know, a little bit about the struggle and a little bit about the uphill climb, you know, about discrimination. You know, I know I can't imagine it didn't happen. And I'm always curious to hear a little bit of the struggle. You know, and you know, I don't want anybody to get in trouble. You know, so if you want to be vague, that's totally fine. No, you know, no names or anything like that. But I'm curious to know again. You know, I'll probably start back with Stacy. Is like, you know, a good, like a funny prank, and then maybe something as well that you didn't think that was so funny.
Well, when I started there, I remember all the new people, they would make them run all their errands and everything. So they would tell me I have to go get coffee, or I have to go get sodas, or I have to go get water. And I'm thinking that's part of my job, but really it wasn't. But it took me some time to find that out. You know, being new, I'm thinking, okay, this is what I have to do to keep my job here. So they got me for a while, but don't think I didn't get somebody else.
Right, you pass it down. Yeah, great.
That's that initiation.
Yes.
Yeah, a little initiation. Anything that you thought was like not cool?
Yeah, you know, sometimes you walk through the plant, and I mean, they have removed them since, but you'll see like nooses hanging around. You hear stories of IDs being posted on the board with monkeys drawn around it. I guess one group of people decided they were going to take I guess it was like a little paint bucket or something and paint it black and draw like an Aunt Jemima face on it, you know, that kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah. That's unfortunate, you know, but I think that's something that everybody needs to recognize as well, that, you know, those were things that you were confronted with that made you think, you know, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
You know, and hopefully I know we've gotten better. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
You know, I think, you know, generally speaking, I'm sure the company has gotten much better, you know, at that, because I do know that, you know, that needed to be done, you know, in order to wake things up, you know, wake people up and say this is not acceptable. And as well, especially like if you're in a team environment, you really you need to look out for each other.
Absolutely.
But maybe as well, if you want to touch on you know, something lighthearted and maybe something that wasn't so. If you
lighthearted. I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead. I'm sorry. You got me on a roll. Before you start, Mr. Thompson, I want to say something and congratulate you again on your leadership at Lucan's. Let me go way, way back and talking about something negative. One of my utmost memories after coming out of high school was the locker room situation. I was there when they had separate locker rooms for the black workers and the white workers. And they were really right next door to each other. And the white locker room was always much larger. And then the lockers came out of the ceilings with the chains and all this type of stuff. And at that time, we had a leader, our union leader. I don't know if you remember, this is so far back, Mr. Yai Brown. He was president of the union, the local back then. And, it was a tough job for him to work through these things, the disagreements. And a lot of them weren't brought to the forefront back then because that's just the way it was. So I say all that to say, Mr. Thompson, once again, and accolades, and people don't understand what your job is and how important and how significant it is. You mentioned traveling around the world and doing this and representing those workers that are down there and doing what you're doing, and with the labor force being cut back and you're part of this rebuilding process. That's all significant during this time. So I just want to say that to give you an idea where we came from, what the union people had to deal with, and where we are now, and what you as the union leader are dealing with now. So
Kameen, if I may.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Kameen, if I may, I just wanted to piggyback on what Mr. Lewis was saying. A gentleman just recently told me the story about the segregated locker rooms. So when they became desegregated, he told me that some women and some wives would come in and clean up the locker room till it was immaculate. And they said that these white gentlemen bought horse manure in the locker room that they cleaned on their hands and knees and spread it all over the locker room because they didn't think that the blacks deserved the locker room.
Yeah.
Do you remember that, Mr. Lewis?
Oh, absolutely. I was in
Wow.
college then when that happened, but it was right after I left, like in the early 62, 63, 64, that they changed. So that was a major transitional time for that locker room change.
Mm-hmm.
And mind you, being a teacher and coming out of high school and going back there were never segregated locker rooms in our school district and this kind of thing.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, these young men and these athletes that dressed together, showered together, then when they went out in the real world, and then all of a sudden, bam, it hit them again. Wait a minute, why do we have to go over there? I want to go over with my buddy and this kind of thing. So those are things that society and the city of Coatesville and the company had to deal with. So when the company got together and say, we got to make this right. And then you have, descendants that, of course, don't agree with everything. So that's why you had that issue. But I remember that very well. And Mr. Yai Brown, and never will forget him, he had to deal with it as the union president then.
Mm-hmm.
He had to work hard. He had to bite his tongue because he couldn't say everything that he wanted to say, but everybody knew what he meant when he went in there. So that was another leadership job that was really, really important, especially to the Black employees at Lucan Steel Company at the time. And he did an excellent job with that.
Uh-huh.
Interesting story. Yeah, Kameen, maybe you could talk a little bit about, again, everybody always mentions like the group of guys or people that they work with immediately, and some of the hazing or lighthearted stuff, but then also maybe some of this, like something that you may have seen that, again, was uncomfortable or, shouldn't have been tolerated.
When I first got to the mill, I worked in what we call a gas cut area, and they had what we call a pea shear. And you had to take this plate, and you had these plate dogs, it's like little metal, like forks, and you had to put the fork in between on the side of the plate, and you had to cut the plate to size. One day I cut the plate too short, and the manager came out, and it wasn't really a big deal, but they were trying to make it a big deal. And the manager said, "Come in, go get the plate stretcher." Said, "The plate stretcher is down there." So I'm running around. I'm looking for the plate stretcher for about 2 hours. And the guy said, man, what you looking for, man?" I said, "The manager told me to go look for the plate stretcher. I cut a plate short. I'm new and I ain't trying to get fired." And they said, "Man, let's go back there. He said, ain't no such thing as no plate stretcher." He said, "You cut the plate short, just reject the plate." I said, "Oh, okay." I went to the manager and I said, "Why you make me go out and get the plate stretcher?" He just laughed, and everybody laughed, and it was fine. Something that was uncomfortable. I've been through some things at my plant, and it's documented. And I have done some articles and have mentioned those things. I know one of the biggest things was when we did idle. A lot of people were upset because as a president, you get super seniority. And that means is that you stay. A lot of the people who was members, white guys who were getting laid off, we had 30 plus, well, not 30, I wouldn't say, probably about 22 to 23 years. That's how far we were cut. And stuff like that don't come about when you're going through the contract and you starting to find out that you won't have a job, but this young, black guy who just came in is going to stay, and you're not going to stay, and you're trying to find out how to feed your family. And at the time, I'm young, and I'm just going forward with trying to keep this mill up and going. And myself and Ron Davis, he's my grievance guy. We're traveling around to D.C. We're talking to congressmen. We actually went to the White House, and we signed the tariffs bill when Trump was in. And we were doing everything we could. We were talking to the military. And it got very stressful. I sacrificed my family, a lot of time with my family at the time. And it was a lot. And I've got nooses and my name put on bathroom walls with the N-word attached to it. It was an investigation that was done, and it was very stressful. But I kept chucking on, and I had more supporters than I had more people that was not supporting. And that made me feel better. But it was just the people that didn't support, that didn't understand the sacrifices that I was making. And at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, I look at my plant now, and we're in a very better place than we were back then. And I will pat myself on the back to say there was a little bit of my hard work and the team and my committee team that really put all that together. But to say that I was very stressed and didn't understand, even in these times in 2018, your name is being attached to the N-word when you're working so hard for everybody. Because, I'm working for not just me, but for everybody. And it was very depressing at the time, but I never let it bring me down. Now, when I got voted in 2015, I walked into a room of the International, and Dave McCall, who's been a mentor to me, he seen something in me, and he really took me under his wing. And most of the presidents were white, but I never felt uncomfortable. They actually they took me on the wing and showed me how to get through it. Gave me a bunch of support. When my mill was idling, they've been through it. One guy named Mark Ganakis, who was a president in Cleveland, he's been through idles, he's been through shutdowns, and older white guy, but he took me and he showed me how to do it, and I'm taking that knowledge and bringing it back to my mill. And like I said, today now we're hiring. We're in a better place. We're about to reopen our mill. We're about to do some great things there. And I was a part of that. I was a part of the bad, and now I'm part of the good. And it was a struggle. And the thing about it is, like I said, people don't understand, what you go through is being to do it right. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of sacrifice. It's away from some family time, and you have to find a balance. And I have learned over the years to do that. But just a lot of people, they want to criticize your job, but they don't know until they walk in your shoes to understand what it takes to be a president and do the things that had to be done at the time. And there was a lot of tough decisions that was on my shoulders, because even though I'm getting this information from other presidents and I have a committee, at the end of the day, is my name being put on these documents that's going to determine, whether somebody's family eats or not, whether I'm taking a meal wants to go 32 hours, hey, let's go 32 hours. I know you guaranteed 40, but in order to keep the meal, we got to go 32 hours. That's a decision I have to make. What's best for everybody? What's best for the overall plant? So it was a lot of decisions at the time that I had to make, that I made, just based off, overall experience and just going with my heart. But the people that I was making these decisions for was the people that were, some people that was not supporting me. And, I got through it. Most of those people left. I think most of the people that I'm with now, that are my members, support me very much. And things couldn't be no better. So that's my story.
Well, congratulations. I know I'm proud.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, way to rise above it. That you have to make, you have detractors, and yet you're doing a job that's going to make their lives better. And I think that's a testament to you. I think it's a testament to all of you, your positive attitudes, because obviously there'll be people who always try to knock you down, but I think that having a positive attitude and persevering is a testament to all of you. It's very, very interesting that you just hadn't really thought of that. You're going to have to make decisions that are going to benefit people that really, were coming at you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I kept my head up high. And the thing about it, when I met my wife, my wife only knows me as a president. So it's not like I had to make an adjustment. She came into this thing with me as being a president. And I had to kind of let her know, like, this is my life. This is, the time, the time at the mill, the travel. And she accepted it. I mean, of course, she's a woman. She wants me home and, and all, but she accepted it. And it was a lot of, when I have contract this year coming up, in 15, I was away for a year and a half in Pittsburgh, away fighting for a contract, fighting for benefits and pay for people for if we had, at that time, we had 80 people, probably a good 10 was these people that were very negative towards me. But through it all, I still had to do my job, keep my head up high, keep my integrity, explain to my wife, be there for my wife, show the balance that I have to have. And but you also have a commitment. When you take that oath, you have a commitment to your members, and you also have a commitment at home. So it was very rough, but I like I said, I got through it. But it's always a challenge. I mean, it's always a challenge. You never totally, got it all together, because when you care, and when you want to be able to fight and do the best job that you can for your union, because people was dependent on you. And that's the way I took it. But all in all, like I said, it was an experience. It was one that I don't regret. It was one that I learned a lot from. And just hearing all these stories of Coatesville, I just shake my head. It's just sad, that they went through that. But at the end of the day, it's all a learning experience, and you learn from it. So,
yeah.
All good.
Yeah, Kameen, I applaud you. I applaud Ron, Brandon, and Fred, because of the great leadership that we have right now. That good old boys club has pretty much become a thing of the past. These guys don't tolerate it. They don't come up there and listen to the stories that these guys try to bring to the union hall. They don't listen to it. If you bring it to the hall, they tell you got to leave. They don't want to hear it. So we have great leadership now And I really appreciate the work that you, Ron, Fred, and Brandon have done. I appreciate that. I really do.
Thank you. We appreciate
You're
you
welcome.
too, Stacy.
Thank you, Kameen.
Great stuff. I mean, I don't know. I don't know where to go from here. I got a few more questions, but you know, I truly applaud, you know, the jobs that you guys are all doing, and making it. Yeah, you got to focus on the job at hand rather than some of the personalities sometimes, and that can be hard to do.
Yeah.
I'll just kind of kick it out. Is like any memorable experiences or something that you're most like, you know, most proud of or that you thought was important? I know, Stacy, you're building submarines, so.
For me, I'm just going to speak about the local. I guess about 25, maybe 27 years ago, Leon Whitfield had took over the presidency, and he asked me to become a member of the Civil Rights Committee. Now, I wasn't involved in civil rights at all. So I asked him, I said, Leon, why'd you pick me? He said, because he didn't know me very well. He knew little of me. He said, because you seem to have your head on straight and you seem to have leadership skills. And I see you talking to other people and you have compassion for other people. So he put me on the Civil Rights Committee there, and I've been growing ever since. So that was, other than being the first female and the first Black school person on the job, that was one of my greater achievements. I've been on a committee ever since, and I love what I do.
Great. Yeah, that's tremendous. I mean, you know, when somebody sees the leadership qualities in you, it's reassuring, and then you take it and run with it.
Yes. I just kept thinking, why me? Why me? He saw things in me that I didn't see in myself. Yeah.
Right.
And I appreciate that.
What was his name? I'm sorry. It was Leon
Whitfield.
Whitfield. No, yeah. Name rings a bell. Mm-hmm. But Harry, in your 3 weeks at the company?
Well, if you don't want to do hard work, you got to find something somewhat easier. But as I said, you know, I came along at a time where segregation was prevalent. You know, I went to school in the South after leaving that situation at Lucan's, and experiences that I've gone through. It seems like it was, I don't know, but things that are happening today are raising those same questions again. You know, I was involved in the sit-ins in Greensboro when they first started that Saturday. You know, I was friends with Dr. King. Jesse Jackson was a senior at North Carolina A&T, where I went over. So I went from one segregated place that wasn't really that segregated to a real segregated place where you had the signs, coloreds only, and this type of thing. I mean, I have a lot of different stories, but they all interconnect when it comes to culture and race relations and those experiences back then. It's a totally different world, but when you get into the history, it's really not that different. You know, you have generations and generations, and as Stacy said, we have to grow. You learn every day. And with your experiences, we have to bring it about and make our youngsters aware of it. That's why forums like this are so necessary and so important, because a lot of our young people today that are taking over a lot of these jobs don't have a clue. And as older citizens, we talk about it all the time. Job experiences, like Kabeen and his job, you know, it's sort of on the job training, you know, or your experiences, you learn as you work and that type of thing. You don't have those mentors as you used to have. So we have to carry these experiences to our kids, their kids, and let them know and keep hammering at it. And society itself by bringing, once again, this forum forward and hoping that a lot of people look at it and listen to some of these testimonies. It's very, very important, especially for Coatesville. We can't take anything for granted, and we have to really appreciate where we came from and our job experience. And Lucan Steel Company back then is a major influencer on where we are now and its history with the city of Coatesville and the surrounding areas.
You know, being Black in the steel industry, you have to fight 4 times harder than being white in the steel industry. But one thing you cannot do, you cannot give up on what you truly believe in. You have to stand firm. You have to really stand strong, because people will test you. They will test you to the extreme, to the point where if you don't maintain your composure, you'll lose your job. So you gotta really stand firm in what you believe. And you gotta do it in a kind and nice manner, because they'll make you lose your job. Seriously.
Yeah,
that's
kind of reminds me of like Harriet Tubman. You got to find your North Star.
Yeah, absolutely.
Find your focus and move in that direction.
That's right.
Yeah, that's very true. Because as a president, I'm dealing with, right now we have 130 people, 130 personalities, and everybody's different. And you're trying to balance everything. You're trying to, solve everybody's problem. And for me, my office is inside of the plant. I'm not located at the union hall. So I'm a safety, because I'm a safety coordinator. So I'm running the safety department. So everybody's always coming into my office, and you're trying to, navigate that, and you're trying to help everybody. But at the end of the day, like I said, like Stacey said, sometimes you want to just close the office and just kind of like just scream to the top of your lungs, because it's just like, you got so many people coming at you. And you got to remember, well, now we're getting more of a young generation of college, but, and this is what Ron told me when I first started, that, the education level is not that high. A lot of people haven't, are straight out of high school. We had some people with 8th grade of education, so the rational thinking and how things how things go is sometimes is not always clear. But I don't hold that against anybody. People know right from wrong, and then people know how to talk to one another, and that's the main thing, just respecting one another. And I am proud of how our union has come. We've come a long way from where we were to now, and how we're growing, and we're getting our workforce back, and we're growing. And that's all through the people just bonding together and understanding one another, and knowing the goals that we need to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
Well put. Well, I hope Harry doesn't get in trouble when I asked him what, the thing he was most proud of and important. I hope Regina doesn't get offended that you didn't mention her. But when you were down there, it's fascinating. I really, you kind of forget stuff. I forgot, that you had such close association with Dr. King, and Reverend Jackson and down in Greenville. Did you meet Regina down there, or how did? Not it's an old side. You met?
Well, actually, you know what? And Kareem, you said it best. My wife, everybody that talks to me, they can't help but bring up my wife, because we're such partners, and she is such an important part, and I depend on her. So Charles, that was a good one, Skip. That was a good one about bringing her. She's upstairs in another room right now, so I'll tell her that to start up.
Yeah, please give her my regards.
Yeah, I will. But I never, actually, Regina's my second wife, because I lost my first wife, who I did meet in college. And she was an educator like I was, and unfortunately lost her in 1998.
That's right.
So I was blessed. I was very blessed, because, after being married 34 years and then getting married again, I wasn't to that. But I tell everybody, she asked me to marry her. If she was down here, you'd hear a big scream and laugh. Yeah. But I've been very fortunate with the women and the partner in my life to help me, because without them, I probably would not be where I am today. So you learn from it. I'm still learning at my age, and I'm still trying to be supportive of these youngsters, such as Stacy and Kareem, and there are lots of them like that, but they are key to the development. I can't say it enough. I say it over and over and over again. The leadership is so, so important. So they're the future of our community and the future of the Cliffs Steel Company, which is a derivative or a part of Lucan's. So, I'm just fortunate to be around.
Well, yeah, and I kind of forgot the timing, of it. I know that she has such a fascinating story as well. Having worked down, I think in AT&T down in the South and facing an uphill struggle as well. Regina.
We have some stories now about, like you talk about the segregation and this kind of thing. And I'm sure she would talk about when she was with IBM and the hairdressing incident. Stacy could appreciate that. They wouldn't do her hair at one of the big time hotels and this type of thing. And, and they found out about it. She wrote it on a suggestion slip. She didn't fuss and argue. She went in and did her thing. But after that letter that she wrote, there were major, major changes. So it's little things like that we remember and we talk about, and we got to prevent them from coming back, because generation to generation, it just changes, and things are so different now than when we were coming along. And so you just got to keep fighting. You just got to keep fighting. Partnerships and teamwork are very important. So.
Yeah, and you have to respect and trust your teammates, so you're not going to fight for them. And it's we're all in this together. I think, Kareem said it well. Not everybody's going to be the most educated, and you have to kind of deal with it on a level. Some people may have an 8th grade reading, and they're coming to you for help. And I think that's one of the signs of a true leader, is the ability to have people be approachable, have people come to you, and that's
absolutely
down and listen and work with them on trying to find a good solution. So commendable. That's a hard thing to do. I'm very vocal, and that's kind of like I would be espousing off, but once you're in a position where you have to balance a lot of things, that can be very stressful.
It has to be for Kareem and his leadership, and also Stacy, because the role that you have as a union president, you're also a teacher, you're also a motivator, you're also an inspirational. You have to grab these young men and teach them all over again, because they're not getting it now. Due to FaceTime and this digital generation, other things and other people are teaching each other, and they don't have that foundation. And to be that foundation to, reach up and pull them down to the ground and say, it doesn't work like this. You have to pay your dues. And you guys are the inspiration and the leaders and the teachers to help these people move along in this kind of workforce.
I agree.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I've been down in the 140. I think I've said it before to Stacy. I think the whole operation is literally built around her. Everybody's working for Stacy.
Yeah.
It's the main role.
You're right.
Yeah, no joke.
It's true.
It is. You're the most important person. I think, just as well, just maybe some of some of the heat, you have a very important job. And, Kareem kind of talked about the rejections and things. And, it's probably very stressful, the plates that are rolling through, and to get the job done right. And you probably, whether or not you're looking over your shoulder, that people are quick to judge. That's just got to weigh on you. But I think so highly, of all, Harry and Stacy and Kareem. I do.
Well, let me interject. I had the opportunity to see Stacy actually in her workplace and working. And let me tell you, I still talk about it because I was truly amazed from the archaic times, and to see this lady sitting up there with all this digital stuff and this everything and behind this glass room, as I remember it, she is that lady. She is that person. And I've seen the guys and the men come in and respect her and ask direction and this kind of thing in my brief visit. So that still lasts with me after witnessing that.
Well,
thank you, Mr. Lewis. Can you guys see my head is getting so big? I don't know if the camera can hold it all. Thank you.
I'm calling it as I see it. I'm calling it, I don't believe in that, but other people need to witness that.
Yes,
because
thank you.
They don't have a clue. And I'm telling you, it's very, very impressive. And that's kind of what I do, give credit where credit is due. And to both of you, it is way past due. And I hope the society, when they have visitations again, if they don't have them now, hope people will want to come and see you in action through tours.
Right. Mr. Lewis, it's coming to work every day is more than just showing up for the job. I mean, you have the weight of the whole company on your shoulders every time you blow for that piece of steel and you roll it out. Because I told Rick, who was one of my supervisors, that I treat every piece of steel like it's my very own. You try to roll it to perfection. Sometimes I might roll it a little bit slower because I want to be more accurate at what I'm doing. Sometimes I might roll it a little bit faster because we may have 20 of the same identical piece of steel that's coming to the mill. But you have the weight of that whole entire mill on your shoulder. It's so bad. It's so bad that the restroom that I use is about a 3-minute walk. I go out to the restroom, if someone is walking across the yard, they want to know, what are you doing out here? Why are you going to the bathroom? Hey, I can't be in a chair for 8 hours. I got to get up sometime. But they want me in that chair for 8 hours to 16 hours a day. But it is a lot. It's a lot on you, but you learn to deal with it. And I enjoy what I do.
Well, this is why, and I hope talking to the board and the society, our young ladies in this community need to see that kind of thing. And it is a lot of pressure because they do depend on you.
Yeah.
Men in general, and I know for a fact that they rely on you because they know you're competent. They know you're going to get the job done and you're a lady of perfection and you take pride in your work, and they depend on it. And one last thing from me, just think, you're the only person out of thousands that can do that job. You just can't take somebody and substitute and put them in there where you are.
Right.
And let them spin in there or know what they're doing. So that's why it's so significant for you. That's why you're so important and so necessary. And as a maker, you're the person, you're that guy. And our community needs to know that. We need to send people and let them see work. We do the doctors, lawyers, and Indian chiefs, but they need to see the people that do these critical jobs that they don't have an opportunity or that isn't publicized as some of these other jobs. And again, I'm going to be an advocate for that and create another phase so we can go down and see these young people at their craft. I got to quit talking too much. You guys got me wrapped up.
You're doing fine.
I was lucky enough to bring my girls and my half brother's kids. We toured the plant a couple of years ago, and my girls and his girls were what it was all about, and that really resonated with them when we get 140 and you're the one operating the mill. And I was like, see, this kid, this is you could do this. You're a role model. I think it was great. That was very memorable to them. Like I was like, this is the person that's like it's all built around.
Stop.
That's true. I mean, it's true. I mean, I think women have always rolled it better in Coatesville. I mean, from all the way from the days of Rebecca Lukens, maybe all the way to Stacey. But I have one question came in on that I got was somebody mentioned the labor gang, and I don't know if it was Kameem had met. Who worked for the labor gang, and maybe can you talk about that? And was that highly segregated?
Well, I mentioned the labor gang because that's all I knew. That's what I did, but that was back in 1959. That's how long ago that was. And that's what it was, the labor. You cleaned up. Your job during the day was sweeping. You cleaned out the slag from the rolling mills after they roll that steel and that slag blew off, and then going under the tunnels and all that with the water pressure hoses. So that was the true labor gang. Other than that, you didn't do anything else but that kind of labor.
Yeah, the nitty-gritty, the dirty.
From now, so I don't know how it is now or what they do now as far as the labor gang is concerned, and maybe Kameem could tell me a little bit about that. But that's all I know about the labor gang. What we did.
It's the same, Harry. It's the same. It's the picking up the grease, the sludge, the scale. You in every bad hole and
oh gosh,
that you can think of. It's the same. It hasn't changed.
So we still have labor gang in our department, but we don't have it a full-time labor gang. So they'll offer labor gang as overtime, but you still go under the mill and you still shovel scale, and you're pulling out big long pieces of slag and stuff that fall off the ingots and slabs, or you're out picking up trash or sticks. It's all included in labor gang work, but we don't have a full-time labor gang anymore.
Okay.
Well, we'll wrap it up, in a little bit. I want everybody to come, with some, parting thought. But I think as well, it's been mentioned before. I mean, we have the Steelworkers Memorial out there, but there are people that walk into the plant that don't walk out. It's dirty. It's dangerous. It's, as Kameem said, it is cold in the winter and hot in the summer. And, I think it's, once you get in, it kind of gets into you too. The job is what it is, whether you think it's great or you love to hate it or you hate to love it. I really appreciate everybody's effort, like what they've done to make Coatesville steel, the best in the country to this day. Lukens is great, but Cleveland Cliffs, it's under a new flag. But it's all about, you can have great machines, but if you don't have the right people working those machines, like you're not going to get the job done. So it really always comes down to people. So I appreciate everything you guys have done and taking the time tonight. But any parting thoughts, anything, you just want to share, in the last couple minutes here before we call it an evening?
Well, I'll just close by saying, take no shortcuts. A lot of people are injured because they got comfortable in a shortcut that they've taken for years and years and years. And then that one day, it catches up with you. So you're either injured or you're no longer here. So don't take shortcuts. And also remember Black history, not only in the month of February, but always.
Great point. Thank you, Stacey. Yeah.
You're welcome.
I just want to say right quick,
Harry.
And congrats again. And I know, both of you people are doing a good job, Kameem and Stacey. But keep doing what you're doing, because the future of a lot of new employees that you guys are going to hire are going to be these guys from the street and these young workers. And it's going to be up to you. You're role models. You're doing your job. And as you guys started and you had to, go through the orientation and the hazing and this type of stuff, now you guys will do that where you are actually in control of that to make these youngsters appreciate the job and learn how to do a good job. And you young people are front line. You're front line. So all I want to say, just keep doing what you're doing, and let's make everybody aware of the seriousness of the type of job that you both do for your company.
Thank you.
For me, it would be just these type of forums is very good. It's very informational, and it can help a lot to understand what the steel industry is all about. The unique jobs that Stacy do, the unique jobs that that I do within safety. So I think these type of forums can be very informational, can help, and you can better understand the dynamics of the steelman, because like it was said, everybody can't come off the street and roll steel. That is something that it's an art. You know, it's like no one can
Yes.
go to the NBA and play basketball. You know, it's an art. It's something that that is perfected. And you got to remember that, you know, when you're going on a plane, you know, this could be our steel. When you're driving over a bridge, that could be a part of some steel, you know. So we have to be mindful about what we're doing and how we're doing it, because, you know, that can be somebody's life. That can be a bridge or that has collapsed. So, and those are the things that I do teach in our training classes. That when you're going to these family vacations, you know, and when you're processing this steel in this plant, make sure that you understand that, you know, you're IDing it right, you're rolling right, you're cutting it right, because any defects can cause something that's catastrophic. So I kind of scare them a little bit, but they understand where I'm coming from. And I appreciate it. Invited to this forum. I really do. I've learned a lot, and I'm pretty sure people have learned a lot from me. So thank you again.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you again, you know, Kameem, for taking the time out of your day. I know you're very busy. I think it's great. Youngest president of the union at 33. What a responsibility.
Yes.
You know, I can't say enough about the job that you continue to do to this day. You know, what an impressive thing. I mean, that's the seat to be in. I don't care about anybody else. I mean, that's it all. Yeah, and you said it. I mean, it's a heavy weight. You know, steel. You know, weights and hot, but you know what a tribute to you. And then Harry, I can't say enough about you as well, and just the things that you've done. You know, for our community. And being a positive light, and as well just being here tonight. So I really just appreciate you all taking the time out to spend with us tonight. You know, and sharing your experiences and sharing your story. And you know, to use, you know, one more, you know, of your friends' great sayings is, you know, we've come a long way, but we've got miles to go. And
yes.
I think you know, Dr. King said it very. So again, I appreciate everybody.
Yeah, he did. Yes,
yeah, you know, we got work to do, and so I don't want to hold anybody up. Stacey's got to get a rest because it's a big day tomorrow. Job, and Harry, I appreciate everybody's time. But
Steve DeVoe, board member, just want to say I'm online.
Is that
Steve DeVoe?
Oh, Steve, I didn't. Oh my gosh, Steve, I didn't.
That's okay. I just want y'all to know I heard everything.
Oh, great.
And I heard my great niece speak, and that was she's awesome.
Thank you, Uncle Steve.
All right, and I enjoyed it, and I've been on listening.
Well, we'll get you. We'll ask about your questions. I really appreciate you being on the line, Steve.
Yeah.
You know,
no problem.
Yeah, it's great to have you here tonight, and thank you for being on our board and helping, you know, us.
No problem.
You have a great grandniece, and we'll hear next time when we'll hear about your experiences. But I appreciate you being on the call. Thanks.
Thank you.
okay?
Good
night, everybody.
Have a good night. Okay, thank you very much.
Good night. Thank you.
Black History Month. Yep.